Have you ever wondered why you can know exactly what you should do and still not do it? You promise yourself you'll start fresh on Monday. You'll break the habit, finally have discipline, stop the endless loop of delay and regret. But Monday comes, and you find yourself back in the same cycle. Procrastination disguised as waiting for the right time. This is not laziness. It's not bad luck. It's self-sabotage. Nietzsche once wrote that the greatest chains are the ones we put on ourselves. And the cruelest part is, we decorate them so well, we forget they're there. We tell ourselves stories. I'll start when I'm ready. But readiness never arrives. So here's the challenge. 7 days. No excuses. This is not a productivity hack. It's not a feel-good affirmation. It's a method that will demand something from you. Discomfort, honesty, and action when your mind screams to wait. Because Nietzsche believed that comfort is the silent killer of growth. If you want to break the cycle, you can't just change what you do. You must confront who you are when no one's watching. For the next 7 days, you will interrupt your habits at their root. You will notice the moment your mind tries to bargain for delay. And you will move in the opposite direction. It will feel unnatural, even wrong. That's how you'll know it's working. This is ancient in its simplicity, but rare in practice. 7 days of deliberate discomfort, and the mask of self-sabotage will begin to crack. By the end, you won't just feel more disciplined. You will know, with proof, that you can act without waiting for permission from your moods, your doubts, or your fears. 7 days, that's all. But if you give it everything, you may find yourself standing in a place you've never been before. A place where self-sabotage is no longer your default. And that, Nietzsche would say, is where your real life begins. Nietzsche had a name for the quiet force that stops us from becoming who we could be. He called it the spirit against itself. It's not the world conspiring against you. It's not your boss, your family, or the people who don't believe in you. The most dangerous enemy is the one that lives inside you and wears your face. This inner enemy doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't openly fight you. It persuades you. It shows up as perfectly reasonable delays. You're too tired today. Start tomorrow. You should learn more before you act. It's not the right moment yet. And here's the brutal truth. These thoughts don't feel like sabotage. They feel like wisdom. They feel like self-care. They feel safe. That's why Nietzsche's warning is so dangerous to ignore. We expect our enemies to stand in front of us. But this one hides behind us, steering our own hands. Every excuse, every logical reason for inaction. That's the spirit against itself, smiling while it chains you down. And the worst part? It uses your best qualities against you. Your intelligence becomes overthinking. Your caution becomes paralysis. Your desire to do things right becomes the perfect reason to never begin. That's why self-sabotage is so hard to see. It doesn't look like destruction. It looks like patience, planning, perfectionism. But if you strip away the language, it's the same result. Nothing changes. Nietzsche saw this as the ultimate tragedy. A person capable of so much, quietly choosing a smaller life. Not because they lack strength, but because their strength is turned inward, crushing itself. If you've ever felt that strange frustration of knowing you could do more, but watching days, weeks, even years slip by without real movement, you've met this enemy, and until you name it, until you see it for what it is, it will keep winning. Not with a fight, but with your quiet consent. We like to think we act against ourselves because of one big reason, fear of failure. But if you look closer, the truth is messier. Self-sabotage is not a single act. It's a cycle, a loop that quietly pulls us back to where we started. It begins with discomfort, the moment we're about to step into something bigger. Our instincts flare up. What if I fail? That fear freezes us. We delay, we prepare endlessly, or we simply walk away. And for a while, we feel safe. But here's the twist, Nietzsche would point out. It's not just failure we fear, it's success. Because success brings change, and change demands we shed old habits, face higher expectations, and maybe even outgrow people we care about. That can be more terrifying than falling short. So we settle back into the familiar, convincing ourselves it's the right choice. We call it balance. We call it being realistic. But what it really is avoidance. And avoidance has a cost. The moment passes. The spark fades. And deep inside, something in us knows we've traded possibility for comfort. Then, after enough time, the frustration builds. We feel restless, unfulfilled, maybe even ashamed. We swear to ourselves, next time will be different. But when the next challenge appears, the same fears rise. And the cycle spins again. Nietzsche believed this is the quiet tragedy of most lives. We don't reject growth outright. We simply keep choosing the path that feels easier in the moment. Not because we're weak, but because we're human. And the loop is so well worn, we don't even notice we're walking in circles. Until we do. And that moment of noticing, of seeing the loop for what it is, can be the first crack in the cycle. If we dare to step out of it. For Nietzsche, real change never came from comfort. It came from friction, from testing yourself against your own limits every single day. He called it Selbstüberwindung, self-overcoming. Not the kind of change where you read a book and feel inspired for a few hours, but the kind where you become someone new because you've wrestled with the old version of yourself. That's what the 7-day method is about. It's not a productivity hack or a morning routine challenge. It's a radical, short-term experiment in becoming stronger, mentally, emotionally, and maybe even spiritually. For 7 days, you live with one rule. Every day, do one deliberate thing that makes you face the exact resistance you've been avoiding. Not random hard things. The specific things you know deep down are your personal edge. If you've been hiding from difficult conversations, you have them. If you've been avoiding the work that matters most, you do it first. If you've been numbing yourself with distractions, you sit in the silence instead. The point isn't perfection. The point is pressure, the kind that forces the cracks in your excuses to show. Each day, the old self will fight back. It will bargain with you. Skip today, you've done enough, or you can start again tomorrow. That voice is the self you are trying to overcome. Nietzsche would say these 7 days aren't about building a new habit. They're about proving to yourself that you are not entirely at the mercy of your instincts, moods, or fears. You're training your mind to obey something higher than comfort. At the end of 7 days, you won't just feel accomplished. You'll feel different. Not because you've conquered the world, but because you've taken the first real step toward conquering yourself. Day 1 is not about fighting yourself. It's about seeing yourself with complete honesty. Today, your only task is to confront the internal judge. That quiet, persistent voice that tells you you're not good enough, that second guesses your every move, that turns small mistakes into proof of your unworthiness. Most people spend their whole lives reacting to this voice, arguing with it, trying to silence it, or drowning it out with distractions. Nietzsche would say, before you can overcome an enemy, you must first understand it. So today, you don't push back, you simply watch. Every time the internal judge speaks, pause. Don't follow its orders. Don't fight its claims. Just take note. almost like a scientist studying a strange animal in the wild. You might notice patterns. It's louder when you're about to try something new. It whispers when you're alone, but shouts when you fail in public. It pretends to be rational, but it's really just fear wearing a suit. The goal is not to believe the judge, and not to destroy it either. The goal is to catch it in the act, again and again, until you realize something powerful. The judge is not you. It's a part of you, but it's not the whole story. By the end of this first day, you'll already feel a shift, not because the voice has gone silent, but because you've seen it for what it is. And once you can see it clearly, it can no longer rule you in the dark. Day 2 is simple to understand, but uncomfortable to live. Today, you choose the harder path every single time. Nietzsche believed that comfort dulls the spirit, while difficulty sharpens it. He called it the forge where strength is made, and that forge only burns when we walk into the heat on purpose. So from the moment you wake up, you become a collector of small hardships. If there's an escalator and stairs, you take the stairs. If you can scroll on your phone or work on that thing you've been avoiding, you work. If you can stay quiet or speak up when it matters, you speak. The harder path doesn't have to be dramatic. It's in the hundreds of tiny choices that shape the day. The cold shower instead of the warm. The healthy meal instead of the quick sugar hit. Finishing the task instead of leaving it half done. Every time you choose difficulty over ease, you're sending a message to yourself. I do not fear the weight. I will carry it. You might notice resistance rise like a wall in front of you. That's the exact moment you take one step closer, not away. Because Nietzsche's lesson is this: the obstacle is the path. Avoiding it keeps you weak. Walking through it makes you unshakable. By the end of today, you will be tired. But it will be the kind of tired that feels clean, earned, and alive. And when you lay down to rest, you'll know. Even in just one day, you've already grown stronger than the person you were yesterday. Day 3 is about dropping the performance. Today, you speak without the mask, in one small area of your life. Most of us have learned to adjust our words so they're safe, polite, and pleasing. We say, "It's fine" when it's not. We nod when we disagree. We hide the truth because we fear it might disrupt the smooth surface of things. Nietzsche warned that living this way is a slow self-betrayal. Every time we swallow our real thoughts, we tell ourselves, "My truth isn't welcome here." So for one day, you experiment with radical honesty, not as a weapon, but as a light. Pick just one area. Maybe it's telling a friend you can't make plans instead of inventing an excuse. Maybe it's admitting you need help instead of pretending you're fine. Maybe it's sharing your genuine opinion in a meeting instead of echoing the safe one. You don't have to reveal every secret or blurt out every thought. The challenge is to say one thing today exactly as you believe it, without softening it to fit the room. It will feel risky. Your pulse may rise before you speak. But once the words are out, you'll notice something. The fear fades, and in its place is a quiet strength. Because the more you practice speaking without the mask, the less power it has over you. And by the end of today, you'll see what Nietzsche meant. Truth isn't just something you say, it's something you stand in. Day 4 is the silent morning test, and it's harder than it sounds. For the first hour after you wake up, no phone, no music, no news, no scrolling, just silence. Most people think they choose distraction, but distraction often chooses them. The moment they open their eyes, their thumbs are already searching for the glow of the screen. It's automatic. And Nietzsche would say, anything automatic is worth questioning. This morning, you break the pattern. You let your mind wake up in stillness, not in reaction. Sit with your coffee or tea without checking what the world is shouting about. Notice the light in the room, the sound of your breathing, the small thoughts drifting in before the noise of the day crashes in. It might feel uncomfortable at first, even a little boring. That's because your brain is addicted to constant stimulation, and boredom is the withdrawal. But if you stay with it, you'll notice something strange. Your thoughts get sharper. You can actually hear yourself think. Nietzsche believed that the ability to be alone with one's mind was a mark of strength, that most people run from silence because silence forces them to meet themselves. This hour is your training ground for that strength. By the time the hour is over, you'll feel less like a passenger on the day's ride and more like the driver. Because the person who can command their first hour can command much more than just a morning. Day 5 is create instead of consume. And for many people, this is the turning point. For one block of time today, maybe an hour, maybe less, you will not read, scroll, watch, or listen to something someone else made. You will make. Write a page in a journal, sketch an idea, build something small, solve a problem you've been putting off. It doesn't have to be good, it just has to be yours. We live in a world that feeds us endless content, stories, opinions, entertainment. And it's easy to forget that humans are not just consumers. We are creators. When all you do is consume, your mind becomes a storage unit. When you create, your mind becomes a workshop. Nietzsche saw creation as the highest human act, not because the product is always perfect, but because the act itself transforms you. To create is to say, I will shape the world, even in a small way, instead of letting it only shape me. You might notice resistance. Your brain will whisper, but you're not ready. But it's not going to be good. But you could just watch something inspiring instead. Ignore it. Even if all you produce is a messy sketch, a rough paragraph, or an unfinished idea, you've still stepped into the arena of makers, not just takers. By the end of this day, you'll understand something important. Consumption ends when the content stops. Creation leaves something behind, even if it's just a seed that will grow later. And for Nietzsche, that seed was proof you were living, not just existing. Day 6 is the discomfort ritual, and this is where most people want to quit. Today, you will choose one intentional discomfort: a cold shower, a skipped meal, an intense workout that pushes you further than usual. It's not about punishment. It's about teaching your mind that you give the orders, not your impulses. Most of us live in a constant negotiation with comfort. We reach for the warm, the easy, the familiar, because our instincts tell us comfort means safety. But Nietzsche believed that real growth comes from friction, from facing what you naturally want to avoid. The discomfort ritual works because it's controlled. You're not waiting for life to test you. You are testing yourself. You are proving that you can feel cold and still stand there. You can feel hunger and still focus. You can feel fatigue and still move. Your brain will rebel. It will say, "Why do this? This is unnecessary." But that's the point. To break the invisible contract you've signed with ease. When you finish the ritual, you'll notice something strange. The world will feel lighter. Small challenges will seem less threatening. And deep down, you'll know you've expanded the borders of what you can endure. Because every act of chosen discomfort makes you harder to control, both by your own fears and by the world around you. Day 7 is the final mirror. And it's not about the surface reflection you see in glass. It's about looking into the version of yourself you carried through the past week. Today, you pause. No new challenges, no fresh tests. Instead, you walk back through the last 6 days in your mind. Ask yourself, when did I resist? When did I want to quit? When did I feel stronger than I expected? This isn't a scorecard. It's an X-ray of your inner life, the fears that still whisper, the impulses that still pull, the courage that quietly showed up. Nietzsche would say, this is the real reward of self-overcoming. Not the achievement itself, but the clarity it leaves behind. You're not just noticing what you did, you're noticing who you were while doing it. You might see patterns. Moments where excuses came dressed as logic. Moments where strength arrived quietly, without fanfare. Moments where you saw the old version of yourself and chose differently. The final mirror isn't always flattering, but it's honest. And from honesty, you can build something unshakable. Because if you can see yourself clearly, both the shadows and the light, you're no longer moving blindly through your own life. You're steering it. 7 days. It doesn't sound like much, does it? A week can vanish in errands, in scrolling, in the same conversations you've had 100 times. But Nietzsche would tell you, even the smallest span of time can be the hinge on which your life swings in a new direction. These 7 days are not a cure. They're not the magic pill or the finish line. They are the spark, the undeniable proof that the self is not fixed, that the shape you walk around in can bend, shift, and grow. Most people wait for change to arrive like weather, hoping for a sunny day to start. But change is never scheduled. It's chosen. And the choice can be as simple as saying, for 1 week, I will live differently. Nietzsche called it Selbstüberwindung, self-overcoming, not the destruction of who you are, but the forging of who you could be. 7 days is just long enough to see that the old patterns aren't laws, they're habits, and habits can be broken or built. By the end of this week, you won't be a finished masterpiece. You'll be something more important, a work in motion. You'll have proof written into your own actions that you can step outside the loop you've been living in. And once you know you can change, you can never unknow it. 7 days. You've stood in the ring with yourself for 7 straight rounds. You've faced the critic in your head. You've chosen the harder path. You've stripped the mask, sat in silence, created instead of consuming, embraced discomfort, and stared into the mirror without looking away. And now comes the part no one talks about, the part after the challenge. Most people treat the end of something like this as a finish line. They feel relief, pat themselves on the back, and step right back into the old current of life. That's how the cycle reforms. That's how comfort swallows growth. Nietzsche would call that the great retreat. The moment a person proves their strength, only to run back to the safety that was holding them back all along. The truth is, these 7 days were never meant to be the war. They were only the training ground. The real battle begins now. Every morning, you will face the same choice: to serve your lesser self or to push toward your greater one. And here's the hardest part. The enemy you fought this week will not disappear. It will adapt. It will whisper, "You've done enough. Rest now. Go back to how things were." You will have to fight daily, without the applause, without the structure of a challenge, without anyone keeping score. This is the war within. Not a single victory, but the refusal to surrender, again and again. So here is your choice, and no one can make it for you. Step back into the warm embrace of comfort, where nothing is asked of you except to drift. Or pick up the blade you forged this week and keep cutting through the lies you tell yourself. Keep walking into the fire of self-overcoming, knowing it will burn, but also knowing it will burn, but also knowing it's the only way to become who you could be. The challenge is over. The fight is not. Which path will you take when the camera turns off, when no one is watching, and when only you will know whether you advanced or retreated?